Dear viewers of Smart 24 TV, we continue with our discussion, the point, analyzing economic policies. In our topical discussion, we continue with a discussion entitled The Disaster Management Policy and Socioeconomic Stability. When we talk about economic stability, Honorable, as the former State Minister in the Office of President for Economic Monitoring, we tend to remain bouncing forward, bouncing backward in terms of having stable macroeconomic progress. The macroeconomic progress I refer to, where our productivity in terms of increasing the capacity for balance of trade, having enough products for export is minimal. Currently, the inflation rate is hitting where the USA dollar, the foreign exchange, the USA dollar versus the shilling remains higher. The shilling at 3,800 and the USA dollar remains still progressing. And when I bring some of other economic analysts, they say we are doing well. And there are a number of unresolved questions. Of course, we look at the economic, when we say there's economic crisis, others they say there's no economic crisis. And also, they mentioned by the head of state executive, of this country, he says this inflation we are talking about, the instability of this caused by inflation, it is not domestically determined, but it is imported inflation. In your analysis in these matters of economic policies, especially for stability, referring to that scenario, what should be done best? What do you identify as to have gone wrong in having an economically stable country? Because our stability remains questionable.
So the question you're asking is there an economic crisis? Is there inflation, imported or not inflation? The other day, the Minister of Finance declared it that. He said that the economy is limping. So if the manager of the economy says that the economic of this country is limping, who might say no? And when you look at what is happening now, of course, there are issues. The economy is not doing very well. And what he's saying is that inflation, this kind of inflation is not imported inflation only. We are having food failure.
The production.
Production. Are you so telling me that this is imported, unless you want to classify climate as an imported? You do import climate. This is what we have been talking about. Early warning signs, mitigation. We would have mitigation. How do you need in this Minister of Agriculture? We need to have an agriculture that is not dependent on the natural climate. You need agriculture where there is irrigation systems that is functional. We do not have irrigation system. It's only 1% of this country, actually less than 1%, that is agriculture that is dependent on irrigation. So once you have a drought, you'll be hit. Now we have been hit the drought. So everything has gone up. There's no crop that you think that has done well in any country. In any part of the country, there has been a crop failure. Maize has not yielded, beans, cassava, name it. So meaning we are going to have food inflation, and the food inflation is worse, meaning we are not going to have food security, meaning we are all going to have more of this kind of calamities. So therefore, the issue of preparedness, mitigation is lacking. Much as we are talking about this inflation, we shall have these problems not until when we address these core issues that affect us. If you are talking about this imported inflation, for example, we are talking about that the fuel prices have gone up. Do we have fuel reserves in this country to have stabilized the price? No, we do not have. Right now, Kenya is in an election. Anything can happen. A crisis can happen. They can go into conflict and they stop our fuel from crossing. Do we have fuel reserves? We don't have. So we do not have reserve of fuel, we do not have reserve of food, we are not addressing production, we are not addressing this issue of proper management, we are not coordinating very well, we are not harmonizing very well. The prayers within this sector are not coordinated. So what do you expect, brother? It's as if we are living on mass of God.
You have wanted to now refer to comparative analysis. You know, whenever we invite you here, we know that you've had an opportunity while serving the government and even of now to relate to a number of countries that have been able to make progressive policy initiative actions that can enable, stabilize the economy and progress and achieve a progressive economy. What do you admire in some of the countries we've gone to that they have done what we've not done best, and maybe which we can bear relief and do it best?
You know, in this country, you admire their preparedness. When you move across here in Rwanda, at one time Rwanda was buying all the cereals from Uganda and storing them into their silos.
Should we look Rwanda as our model, really?
We are just, I'm looking at the policies that they have implemented that work. So if we want to look our model, well, we said comparison.
Yes.
So I'm comparing the policies that have worked and policies that have failed.
Yes.
For them, they have implemented this policy, preparedness policy, food storage policy. So if they have done it, why shouldn't we done it? Why shouldn't we do it also? Why can't we do it ourselves? It has been successful there. Why can't we do it there? Same thing has been happening in Kenya. Why would I go to look for examples? You want me to look for examples in Europe?
Those are first world countries, because
America.
My aspiration is that we should be the best.
I'm looking for examples in Africa where
it's okay,
where they have worked better. I've given you Rwanda, food storage system. We have countries like Kenya, the irrigation system. They have the smallest edible land, but they are producing much more than we can produce. If you want me to go outside this country, I can go to this country which has gone to a war, Ukraine. Ukraine, a very small country with a very small population, producing the food that feeds Africa. And the moment they went into a war, we cannot have enough wheat, we cannot have enough barley for production of wheat, for another bread. They have gone in a war, you don't have enough oil seeds for you are having a crisis into the oil, edible oil. A very, very small country, minute country, producing a continent of 1.2 billion population, which has like 10 times more, not even 10 times, which have like 20 times more of arable land than Ukraine. But the moment we are now begging Ukraine so that Ukraine and Russia and please have some peace talks so that we get food. That is very embarrassing.
Are we to get food from Ukraine, or we have our own food?
We are getting fruits from Egypt, all the way from Egypt, from desert countries. And the water they are using to irrigate these kind of fruits, they are getting it from the Victoria, from the Nile. So when you say that we are other countries to compare from, it is very, very embarrassing.
But before,
we are getting fruits from Israel, which is also a desert country. But because they are managing their agricultural system very well, then they are feeding us. We are failing to feed ourselves because we are not nurturing the environment correctly for production. So the examples to use are very, very, very many. We have to borrow examples from many places. I've told you from like for irrigation. We can borrow a leaf from Egypt. So it is a bit, that's the bitter truth that I'm telling you. Not desirable, I wouldn't like, it doesn't make me proud to come and pinpoint this kind of issues. But
I thought, Honorable, that what may be where we are, you will inform us more, since you may be having information that either speaks to what we are talking about, But in my observation, when we are moving here in this city, Kampala, and some other districts, it seems Uganda still has an advantage to be a food basket of Africa. It seems that we still have an opportunity to be a great exporter of food products. When we look around and we're able to access a bunch of what we call, bogoya, it is too huge that at times when you look at, say, Uganda, we are blessed. The mangoes around us. And all others, even at times when we are talking about a number of these crop production in our country, it seems to be, if maybe an inspiration is given to our citizens and an enabling to motivate them progress from where they are to the next level, we could do better. What is the missing link of being what we want to be? Because we have what it takes, and we have the opportunity of the fertile soil.
What's the missing link?
Yes.
My brother, I don't know why you want me to repeat myself so many times. So many times.
There's only one to find out what might be the problem.
I told you the missing link is the framework, the implementation framework, the implementation of these policies. Yeah?
One time you were an implementer. I want to hold you responsible. One time you were an implementer. You were implementing, monitoring.
They implemented the ministry which I was holding was not, but that's not an excuse anyway. We are looking at the body whole. We are looking at a holistic picture. We are not looking at an individual. Even if you put me back into the government now,
yes.
Maybe if you make me a president, yes, I will change things.
Or but if you
make me a prime minister, yes, I would coordinate, I would harmonize. But if you make minister for economic monitoring, and I monitor and I tell you, I'm now still into monitoring and evaluation, operational risk creation. I am telling them,
why is it that
do I have the means to? Do I have the coercive forces? Do I have the means to coerce them to do what they are supposed to do? But if you are, say, the prime minister, you coordinate, you harmonize, you make sure that the resources are given to the responsible ministries. You make sure that the implementation is done. You make sure that the harmonization is done. You make sure that there's no policy overlaps. You make sure that the right people are doing the right job. You make sure that the right people are recruited through the public service system. But if you are just a spoke in the wheel, can a bicycle move with one spoke in the wheel? Can it? No, it cannot.
The operation creation wealth, that's your department.
Operation wealth creation.
Yes, operation wealth creation.
That's where I work now, present.
And our desire is to see all citizens creating wealth.
Our agenda is transformational.
So,
but we are not implementers.
You are not
we are like an advisory body of the government. So if you give your advice and your advice is not taken, do you blame me that?
So you are much more of technocrats.
I'm advisory.
You are advisor. That's technical.
Yes.
Technical
yes.
assignment.
Yes.
So now, moving forward, how can we realize the effective implementation, for instance, of this program where you are? And the advice. It's
the
good.
Effective implementation.
It's good that we have this platform and we bring it for also that purpose.
No problem. I have the answer for you. The effective implementation is to make sure that the holistic framework within the government operates. There's the coordination, the harmonization, it operates. But if you are going to have ministries, if you have to have departments, you have to have agencies. The other day we were talking about rationalization of government agencies and commissions to avoid the overlaps. Is it being implemented? No, it's not being implemented. You're not giving enough, you're not producing enough funds. We said there was a wasteful expenditure. If you're having wasteful expenditure, the other day, my neighboring constituents, my neighbors in Buchimbri were having a by-election. But the whole government was there. Let me not even go to...
They wanted to win the election. That's what they say.
Winning an election so that you do what? Are you saying that if an independent candidate wins the election, he will not have the services, will not be offered to the people?
There's no problem.
Will the world,
Even if it's whether
a country,
FDC,
Uganda, stop,
even if an FDC
a government of Uganda, will it stop operating?
Because it's not
the other day we were in Mbale, when we were in Mbale, all monies were being dished through politicking. But the moment the politics went off, the floods hit them, and many people, we had over hundreds of people dying. And where people were being died, only 150 million was sent there. But on a daily basis, during the politicking time, more than maybe 2 billion is being spent. We had the prime minister camped there permanently. You have a vice president camped there permanently. You have several ministers camped there permanently, only fighting for one seat. So that this kind of frugality, this kind of expenditure, this kind of wasteful expenditure, that's what we are talking about. In Operation Wealth Creation, we say there should be creation of wealth. Put the money to agencies that generate wealth.
For increase of productivity.
Yes, increase productivity. Increase productivity. You have been talking about the food basket. If Uganda was to be given an advantage, it was given. If Uganda everything was optimal, would be a food basket for the whole of Africa. Yet that is true. Uganda, we produce maize. We have 2 seasons. All the countries within our region, they have only 1 season. Kenya has 1 season, Malawi 1 season, Zambia 1. The southern part has 1 season. It's only Uganda that has 2 seasons for production of maize. And this kind of maize would be now, therefore, giving the whole of Africa, would be supplying these countries which use maize. But are we taking advantage of that? Coffee, we are the leading country that produces coffee within the world. Are we having enough coffee? Are we adding value? Tea, the same story. Horticulture, we are same story. We have a comparative advantage than any other country in this region. We are more abreast than Kenya. We are more abreast than Rwanda. We are more abreast by talk of any other country. But are we the leading horticultural producers in this region? No, we are not. So the cassava, talk about the cassava. So what we are talking about is that we are not harnessing nature to serve and benefit our mother country.
I would like to count on you that...
And because we are not doing that, it's just because people are sleeping. And when I say people are sleeping, don't blame me, even the president has said so, that the Ugandans are sleeping.
Is it true they are sleeping?
Do the analysis.
Now while you are looking into that, you monitored and you still have...
And actually that is if you are saying, if you are asking people are sleeping, they may be awake but not producing enough because they have not been either, I don't know, they are not putting thoughts in it, or they are not have been facilitated, or why would we be having here people who are just... Why in this Uganda, at this time, why would we be talking about this, the president talks about producing for a chenda, subsistence farmers. Why would we be having subsistence farmers? How many commercial farmers do we have? Why would we be having irrigation agriculture, which is less than 1%? Why would we not having enough production for our country? Why would we be having this kind of disasters? You know?
Disasters at the time, they are natural occurrences.
They happen
when you deal.
There's no disasters that are not even predictable. Even the weather production now, you predict.
How could you predict like what was in Mbale, all of a sudden the city, the town?
Who tells you that you can't predict the rains?
From Mbale floods.
Who tells you that you can't predict a storm? It can even be predicted days in advance. Early warning signs. Who doesn't predict? Do you need a scientist? Do you need rocket science to tell you that when you build in wetland, the wetland will flood?
Scientists.
Yes. Do you need a rocket science? Do you need a prophet to come and tell you that if you put an industrial area like how they put an industrial area Mbale in a wetland, do you need a scientist to come and to tell you? It is logic, it is science.
There's an analysis I would like us to make, and which is based on a regional survey, economic survey. And we have around 22 sub-regions, of which yours is inclusive, Kigezi sub-region. And I know you have some substantive information that you can inspire Ugandans what would have been done best per each sub-region of Uganda. I would have taken it to a level of a family. And referring to that, especially with the inspiration which I had here with Professor Gustas Nwagaba, when he was referring to one of the economic policy advice that he was able to recommend in some of the countries that were producing at a family level. But for me, I'm not talking about at a family level. I want to first take it to a sub-regional level. Do you think we have done adequately that what should have been done, and what would you inspire us according to the information that you can suitably share with us, especially each sub-region of Uganda? The reason why I'm bringing it in that context, if for instance...
So do you want to have a region per region?
Region per region, because we want to inspire our people who are viewing our programs, and we know the potential of Ankole, of Uganda, of Busoga in what they are doing based in production.
You know, there have been regional there have been zonings. Zoning. What is good for Kigezi, what's good for Karamoja, for Uganda, for what? And all those kind of things, there is a central something that runs across the board, and that is funding, finance, money. So when you talk about all those zones, they all need money. They need money, we need funding, we need innovation, we need research, we need Naro to be put on its wheel, but it is, you know that Naro is underfunded. You need to research and bring varieties that are good. If Kigezi is good for sorghum, for Irish potatoes, for barley, for those temperate crops, do the research, fight diseases. If you know that this Karamoja needs irrigation, you do the irrigation. If you know that Buganda is good for coffee, give them the right varieties of coffee. If you know that other places, the places which are, if Bugisu is also good for coffee, give them the good varieties, give them good seeds. Whatever it needs a deep thinking. It needs funding. It needs commitment. It needs the right strategies. It needs packed coordination and harmonization. You need a government that works for the people. You don't need, and you need that those resources, they should be put to use. If the resources are available, should not be stored. The corruption component part that you're talking about. If you do that and you educate the people, mass education, the people will do what the people can produce. But unfortunately, the people are not being directed in the right product. We don't have extension workers to help them. Even when you have this kind, for example, you go into farming, you are allowing this country to import adulterated medicine. You know, you are having a bichupuli. What do you call it commonly a bichupuli? You do not have an efficient system to give that, make sure that the right drugs, the right, the right pesticides, the right seeds come into the country. Then if you don't all do that, then, it is a holistic management, okay? Well funded, well monitored, well coordinated, well harmonized, that will work for the people. And then Uganda will be a food basket for this whole nation. You will not have, why would Ugandans be poor? Why would Ugandans fail to get what to eat? There is no reason that justifies the end of that.
Okay, I appreciate you for your submissions, and they remain indeed with some serious demands. And of course, everyone should know where you should play your role. The citizens, you must play your role. The government should play your role. The civil society also, those who have intervened. And
the private sector.
And the private sector should play your role.
Don't import fake things which police.
And in all that, as he says, that we should have, a systematic, importation of what can originally transform what you intend to transform. And also, what you didn't talk about, we'll talk about the role of investors in bringing this stability, because we need to know how best we can improve on our economic stability, which remains questionable. Our dear viewers, stay tuned on Smart 24 TV. We continue to aspire for the welfare, the economic welfare of our citizens, And we will not leave also the challenge of the refugee management. I posted that also point as part of the disaster. We look at that in the second session.
Why should you have refugees?
The refugees, yes, please.
You're having refugees because you have wars. Stop wars. Work for peace. Don't work for wars.
The refugees, it's not us who bring them. Here we come in a different way.
This is regional politics, geopolitics.
Okay, you will tell us about how we can avoid the refugee problem, which is also a disaster, because we know what is happening in Kisoro district, we know what's happening in Changwal in the western Uganda, and also northern Uganda, in the northwestern Uganda. All this is not something that we should be happily enjoying when we see our neighbors either suffering. It also touches us. This is a direct connotation on what to be a human being means. When your human being is suffering, of course, you cannot say it is well that we can't talk about it. Thank you. Stay tuned on Smart 24 TV. See you in the next session.